my super fam, Lantern Rite event is basically here once again. I don't know how many times it's been. Is it the 5th time already? Oh my god. Now there are many interesting things about Lantern Rite event, but one of the best reward that comes along with it is the ability for you to choose a free 4-star character from Leeway. So as usual, like every year guys, I will basically provide my personal opinion on which character is best for us to be choosing at this point in time. Some of it is very apparent, but I know that many of you already got many of the 4-star characters to C6, so you may be considering some other choices, which is why you are currently on the fence, and hopefully this video is going to be able to help you out. Natlan is finally here, and of course that comes with many new characters that you would want to pull, and I can guarantee you that Mavuika is going to be on the list. Now if you're planning to swipe for pulling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 20% on all of your top-ups. With over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point, you can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. To demonstrate it to you, I've been topping up my Genshin account through Loot Bar, buying the highest Genshin package. The only information you would need to fill out is going to be your UID and server region. Then go through the checkout process. After completing, the top-ups will come to your account within 5 minutes. Usually it just comes instantly for me. Here you can see my order receipt of all of my top-ups that I have done. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save your money, especially if you are topping up a large amount. Now how I do this to keep it short is the character mentioning, I will list them out in chronological order in the place which I think they're the most worth it to grab at this point to the least worth it character, so that you know to save our time while we go through each of the character. And so first up on the list, I just have to give it to Lan Yan, because while she is the newest character in the game for a 4-star of course, so obviously her choosing priority is definitely going to be 1 and above most of the other characters, obviously considering that you don't have either Xiangling and Xingqiu both at C6, because technically speaking they are going to be higher priorities if you are looking into the meta. But if you're more interested in newer characters, you know, gameplay, or you're more interested in the shield, which Lan Yan is very good at, then overall she's going to be a nice character. Now in short, how Lan Yan's skill and kit work is, I think it's very simple. She's just going to be a quote-unquote anemo shielder for you at first, right? So you basically cast her E skill and she gives you a anemo shield, which is pretty nice. However, the interesting thing about Lan Yan that I don't think many other shielder has access to is the ability to infuse her shield with a specific element of either Hydro, Pyro, Cryo, or Electro, and infuse that into that specific element to give a better defensive efficiency toward that specific element, which makes her much more unique. However, what I feel makes her stand out a lot more from other support shielding character is that she has the ability to potentially do decent damage, and that specifically goes toward her elemental burst. Now if you look into her burst scaling at talent level 10, you're practically seeing around over 1200% in scaling for her burst damage, because it does do multiple instances of damage. It only has an entry cost of 60, which is technically not a lot, especially for a support shielder like Lan Yan. But having this ability definitely would allow her to have a more competitive edge whenever you're looking for a decent shielder on your team, while being able to dish out pretty nice damage. Now assuming you're going to be pulling on Alekino and Clarence Banner, you can actually think about getting more of her constellation. Overall you don't really have to invest too much into her cons, because Lan Yan's overall best constellation from what I'm seeing here is going to be her at a C2. So what it does is that if her shield is active and your active character do normal attack, then she restore up to a 40% of her shield damage absorptions. It can occur once every 2 seconds. Now this is pretty huge, because there is definitely a potential that she is having an infinite shield just like Zhongli. Obviously if you don't get her shield broken too fast, her shield many of the time is definitely going to be staying up for an absolutely long time, which is an interesting constellation, because I don't think we have any character that have access to this before. Definitely a very nice constellation for a specific shielder like Lan Yan. And then the rest of her constellation mainly actually helps her to do more damage, which is pretty nice considering that she's a character that dish out decent damage for you. But other than that, her C4 gives your whole team member an extra 60 EM, which is a decent boost. Not too much, but it is a nice constellation for you to have. The overall her values there, I think even if she's not a new character, I think her choosing value is technically always going to be on the higher end, because as long as you have her on the team and you build her pretty decently, she's going to be able to provide value to your team building. Next up, it's going to be Xingqiu and Xiangling. I really value a lot of these two characters, honestly speaking. They're technically still both on the same level of priority to me. They're just so important of a character because, I mean, Xingqiu constellations are very important toward him. The more constellation you have, obviously, the better. His C6 is absolutely powerful. It's still one of the best hydro support sub DPS character you have in the whole entire game. If you haven't got his full constellation, go ahead and get that. And same goes to Xiangling. I don't think I have to talk too much about these two characters. You know, C6 Xiangling is still very much a powerful character to the point where she probably has the ability to be in competition with a sub DPS Mavuika, right? That's how powerful she actually is. Now, Xiangling constellation, the best one is going to be at her C4. So you actually have to try to get to this number of constellation for Xiangling to get her maximum potential. Now, getting her to C6 is definitely going to be a nice addition, but well, you know, unless you have more pyro character on your whole team, 50% damage to the Xiangling alone isn't going to be as important as you try to get her C4 specifically. Next character is going to be Yaoyao. Now, I value Yaoyao a lot because if you look into it, we still haven't got a lot of supportive healing general character other than Yaoyao and Beidou. And specifically on my account, since I don't have Beidou, Yaoyao have been saving my Dendro team healing ass for a very long time, and she's doing absolutely perfect with it. It's not like she's a bad character in terms of doing anything. She has decent Dendro applications. You know, everything she does is really easy to use. She also has access to whole team healing as well, even though it does require her to be a little bit of on field. But for a 4-star character that has the capability of doing all those kind of things, is still a very decent character. Obviously, it's more specifically for those of you who focus a lot on, you know, Dendro team using, because yeah, she's a Dendro character and she's more fitting if you build a either Hyper Bloom or a Bloom team around your team. Like I usually have Yaoyao on my Nilu Bloom team. She does absolutely perfectly fine on that specific team. It's really nice having her. Yaoyao constellation is okay. I think it's on the better side. Obviously, it's not a requirement for you to actually get her constellation, but if you do, you know, like C1's kind of nice, right? You get an extra 50% damage bonus, helping toward your Dendro DPS character. Other than that, you know, it's a little bit more toward helping with the quality of life to Yaoyao. I think, you know, having C0 or C1 is kind of like a nice thing for Yaoyao already. It's not too much of a requirement, but overall, I still value Yaoyao very highly. Other than that, we have Beidou. Now, Beidou has been falling off in terms of popularity for the past patches. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of people using Beidou, but overall, she herself as a character is still there. Like, her value is still very nice in terms of being a sub DPS electro character, in terms of helping you out with everything regarding electro, especially when electro charge reaction has been buffed a little bit within patch 5.2. The Beidou value is technically pretty much back. However, you know, nowadays we have a lot of different electro characters, right? Especially when Auroron has just arrived, which is, you know, a decently better character and more comfy character to be using. He also has access to off-field damage as well as Cinder City buff. But if you still like Beidou, you want to use her value is still pretty much there. It's not like she's a bad character or anything. She has a good ability to dish out nice number. So yeah, that's, you know, if you want to go for Beidou, I think it's technically fine. Beidou constellation is pretty powerful. You know, the more constellations you have, the better she's going to be. It's not like a must-have kind of thing, but it does help her pretty decently, especially at the C2 level. It does help Beidou in terms of dishing out damage pretty decently. So if you're more focusing on Beidou, you can focus on that. Moving on, we have Yun Jin. Well, Yun Jin is definitely a very specific buffing character. She's still very powerful. It's just that we don't actually have too many normal attacking character that making use too much of Yun Jin, or either that, just slot in some other good support sub DPS character you have, like, you know, Xilonen. If you have a Xilonen, you're probably just going to be slotting in her on the team anyway instead of Yun Jin. But in terms of what Yun Jin is still capable of, her normal attack damage buffing is still pretty much on par with the level of Bennett, right? If you want to use Yun Jin, she's still very good. Obviously, you want to get her constellation, right? All 4 constellations are good, which is why it makes her to be a much better character, especially once you get her to C6. Yeah, it's a very nice quality of life and everything added to what the character that she supports. But obviously, that's the thing about, you know, 4-star support character, right? They get overpower prep by some of the later on 5-star support character that comes, which is kind of like a sad thing, but well, it is what it is. Then after that, we start moving into some of the character that's pretty much his preference wise at this point, right? Like, for example, for Yanfei. Yeah, like obviously if you have a C6 Yanfei, you want to play with her, she can still do damage, but like I don't think I'll be using Yanfei that much even if I have her, unless I really love her. Her gameplay is kind of fun, right? She does, you know, those unique charge attack, but then again, it is what it is. We have a lot of pyro DPS character, especially Mavuika's coming soon, so if you're looking for a meta character, obviously that's not going to be the case for you. Gaming sim also, again, like last year. Wait, what? I have a C6 Garmin. When did I have a C6 Garmin, man? But like, yes, I've talked a lot before. Gaming as a 4-star character, if you have him at C6, he's able to dish out a lot of number. If you have his specific support character, Xiangyun. I have a Garmin for like over a year now, and I don't know when I have a C6 Garmin, but I completely forgot about him because yeah, we have so many pyro DPS character nowadays that again, if you have a preference-wise playstyle toward Garmin, I think his gameplay is pretty fun. It's just that I haven't been using him, so it's not like he's that bad or anything, but he does require you to have a decent number of constellation for him to dish out good number. That's the thing about Garmin or other 4-star character that want to be a little bit more competitive to what the DPS kind of side. And then obviously some of the other characters, you know, like Ningguang, yeah, preference character wise, not too good at this point in time unless you really want to play her. And then of course there was Zhongyun as well, pretty much dead at this point unless you know, Cryo comes back. Hopefully Cryo's come back anytime soon, but even if it does, it's really hard to use him nowadays. It's kind of sad to see because, you know, back in all the way in 1.1, which is a very long time ago, he used to be in the national team of Genshin Impact, but then later on he just falls behind because there's so many other characters that's come along and they are much better in terms of doing their own job than Zhongyun. So pretty much that. And then finally, yeah, Xinjiang, again, preference wise, when are we going to be using her, right? It's yeah, it's for Xinjiang main. Like how many of us are going to be Xinjiang main at this point? Yeah, sometimes you might enjoy her, or the only times when you're probably going to be using her is you're starting a new account, you definitely have no character, and you put on the banner, you end up with the Xinjiang. That's probably when you're going to be using Xinjiang. Other than that, she does require a bit of constellation to actually, you know, be a lot better. She can't function as C0, but then, like, honestly, yeah, it's not a character that we'll be using. So that's pretty much going to be like a lot of focusing on the higher priority character like Lanyan, Xingqiu, and Xiangling, those kind of character, or you know, Yaoyao, you still want to choose for her. So hopefully this video have been able to help you out. If you do have any questions, guys, leave it down in the comment sections, and I or some other lovely Genshin player will get to you there. Now guys, if you're still on the fence of which character you should be pulling for in patch 5.3, especially in the event and chronicle banners, I have 2 very in-depth videos going through that already for you guys, so be sure to check out this video right here, as I'm sure it's going to be very helpful to you. I really appreciate you guys staying with me till this part of the video, guys, and with that I wish you a super day, and I'll catch you on my next video.